So Mateta's role in Eze's FA Cup final goal against Manchester City perfectly exemplifies why stylistically he could be exactly the type of centre forward that Ruben Amorim's system requires. See, in the build-up phase we know that Amorim often likes to use a direct long pass forward into the striker, who can then look to link play, bringing on running midfielders into the game as a way of beating the high press. And this is exactly what Palace do here as City look to press them high in their defensive third, and so they go long early on into Mateta, and you can see that whilst he's in a physical battle with Guardiola with his back to goal on the halfway line, unlike Højlund, he isn't overconsumed by the physical duel, instead knowing exactly how to use his physical strength optimally, but also his first touch with his left foot under pressure is genuinely elite level, as not only does he bring the ball down under control, but he also recognises that his support is on his right hand side, and so with his first touch he's able to take the ball across his body onto his right side as efficiently as you could want, and he doesn't get caught up in the physical battle or just try to race forward himself as we often see with Højlund, but instead he's able to link play with a cushioned pass off into Kamada. However, that's not it, as what he does next not only showcases his intelligence as a centre forward, but also how he has the skill set to operate perfectly in Ruben Amorim's possession system. And I'm going to carry on with the analysis in just a minute, but the questions around Manchester United signing Mateta are: number one, is he worth the reported £40 to £45 million that Palace are demanding? Number two, does he have the current and potential ability to be the sort of elite level centre forward that United need? Or is he simply just a fairly good Premier League striker who is more of a stopgap? Thirdly, how would he work in a front three with Matheus Cunha and most likely Bryan Mbeumo? And number four, given the price difference, is he actually a better option than the likes of Gyökeres or Osimhen? Well, in this video I'm going to be answering all of those questions as well as analysing the Eze goal to show you exactly what I mean. But before I go any further, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. They've got a variety of different currencies and retro jerseys, including this 2006-2007 white Manchester United away shirt with Ronaldo 7 on the back, which they did actually send me, as well as this Juventus Zidane shirt from the 90s as well, which are two jerseys that I have been wanting for quite a while, but were incredibly hard to find. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you'll get a 10% discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comments section below. So as Mateta is about to lay the pass off to Kamada, this is where we see his intelligence in relation to his rowing Glasner's system, as well as the players around him, because most strikers here, as Kamada is receiving the ball, would be looking to spin and make a run down the outside of Guardiola. And to be honest, this wouldn't exactly be the wrong run to make, as this is clearly where the space is. However, if you watch Mateta closely, you can see that as soon as he lays off the pass, he is constantly watching the ball, not even looking to make a run into that space on the outside, instead holding a position centrally and looking to receive the ball to feet. And the reason he does this is because he's aware that because Glasner uses wing backs with three centre backs behind, Munoz, or right wing back, is going to be making a long bursting run from deep down the right, and so rather than spinning and making that run himself, which would in turn close off the space for Munoz by dragging Guardiola wide and deep, Mateta instead holds his position, keeping Guardiola central, and that space on the right now opens up. And so when Mateta eventually receives a pass back from Kamada, he can now open up his body, receiving it on his left foot, and at this point he is ready to play the pass to release Munoz, but instead he recognises that Munoz probably has another 5, maybe 10 yards to get up with play, and so instead of rushing and playing the pass early, as we probably would have seen from Højlund in this situation, he delays the pass and instead drives forward, waiting for Munoz to get up with play before then releasing him at the right time. However, his influence on the goal doesn't stop there, as he shows that he has the perfect stylistic blend between what both Xerxes and Højlund individually offer. As while Xerxes specialises in the sort of link play that we've just seen from Mateta, after he would play the pass to release Munoz, he just wouldn't have the acceleration to attack the box in the same way that Højlund would be able to. But on the other hand, Højlund's ability to win that sort of physical duel and bring the ball down under control is nowhere near the level of either Xerxes or Mateta, nor is his decision making, off the ball movement, or overall intelligence. But Mateta in this goal shows that he has the best of both, and so now as Munoz takes a touch, Mateta is now accelerating into the space between the City's centre-backs, looking for a pass across a 6-yard box to potentially receive a tap-in. But even though Munoz doesn't go for that option, and instead goes for a cutback to the penalty spot, Mateta's run is still vital as it drags Diaz deep, opening up the space for Eze to attack, and first time direct the ball into the corner to give Crystal Palace a lead. And it's this sort of physicality, technique and intelligence the Amorim system has been lacking from the centre forward, with Mateta's presence up front alone allowing United to go a lot more direct from the build-up phase, and like Munoz at right wing-back, with Amorim's wing-backs Ahmad on the right and Dorgu on the left, or maybe a new signing as well, United would have this sort of pace over longer distances to be able to run ahead of Mateta, allowing him to be the point from where the attack is linked, to then allow United to transition the attack quickly with these sorts of direct runs ahead of him. However, we all know by now that Mateta is a very good Premier League striker, but is he good enough comparatively compared to the likes of Gyökeres and Osimhen? Well, on current ability, I do think it's a bit of a stretch to say he's as good as those two, as both Osimhen and Gyökeres have an absurd ability to create opportunities for themselves, in a way that many other strikers can't do to the same level, with Gyökeres being able to receive the ball in the middle third, sometimes isolated on his own without the support of teammates, and then being able to drive powerfully up the pitch, get into a position in and around the box before then being able to manipulate the ball in order to open up shooting angles, with Osimhen's ridiculous physicality, athleticism and flexibility enabling him to bully centre-backs and get on the end of low probability balls that you wouldn't even expect him to get to then work a shooting opportunity. You can stick either of those two in most systems, even if the system as a whole doesn't completely suit them, and they're still able to create chances for themselves. Mateta, on the other hand, is more of a system striker, but if used in the right role, in the right system, with the right players with the right skill sets around him, then this simplifies his game, wherefrom I would say that he has the ability to develop into one of the best strikers in the Premier League, and potentially under the right circumstances even get to the elite level. And as we've seen with Glasner's Crystal Palace system, I think Mateta suits a 3-4-3 to a T. And that's because with two interior forwards holding central positions in close proximity to him, he doesn't have to constantly play the role of a selfless target man, dropping deep and pulling wide to simply hold up the ball and enable his side to retain possession. And instead he can primarily focus on staying central and looking to make runs in behind to get into goal scoring positions himself. And playing alongside Cunha and Mbeumo in the front three, I think Mateta ticks a lot of boxes. Excellent when receiving direct long balls from deep during the build-up phase as I've just shown, but also having the technical ability to link play further up the pitch as well. Maybe actually even being a bit more technically precise with his ball control and layoffs than either Osimhen or Gyökeres in certain situations. And like those two, he also has the pace to provide the movement in behind the back line. And so whilst the criticism of Xerxes is that after he links play, he doesn't have to turn up pace in order to keep up with the attack and then get into a high value goal scoring position in and around the box, especially when it comes to attacking the 6-yard box and looking to get into a position for a tap-in, Mateta does. Cunha has the ball carrying ability to receive possession in behind the opposition's midfield line and then be the player to drive the attack forward, with Mateta and Mbeumo then able to provide the movement in behind the back line, but also because of how complete Mateta's skill set is, he can also drop off deep and link play with his back to goal, but also if the space is afforded to him he can also turn and drive the ball forward himself at pace, and so therefore one of the opposition centre-backs has to follow him deep in order to stop him being able to turn, which works perfectly for Mbeumo if he's used as an inside forward, able to make diagonal runs into the space that Mateta's deeper movement has created. But against deeper defensive shapes, Mateta also has the technical ability and trickery that other pretty good mid-table level strikers such as Chris Wood or Strand Larsen don't have. Able to use drops off the shoulder, feints, step overs, and quick shifts off the ball around the box in order to work a shooting position, where from off of either foot, he has a variety of different finishes that he's capable of. Inside of the foot, well-placed finishes, explosive strikes with power, or cuter dinked finishes past an on-rushing goalkeeper. He isn't as prolific in the air as Victor Osimhen, but really, who is? However, given his size and physicality, this could definitely be an area of his game that's developed on in order to take him to that next level. Mateta to me is a mixture between a target man and a poacher, also being highly technically astute as well, and despite being a late bloomer, he's only a year older than Gyökeres and 18 months older than Osimhen, turning 28 this summer. And whilst you may say that it's only the last 18 months that Mateta has really been at this level, that is still a fairly big sample size and period to judge a player over, and as I have said many times in previous videos, a centre-forward's game is heavily reliant on mental attributes such as offensive instincts, composure, positioning, off-the-ball movement and awareness, which are all attributes that tend to take players until their mid to maybe even late 20s in order to develop significantly, which is why strikers tend to peak slightly later, around 28 to 32. 14 goals in 37 games this season in the Premier League and 16 in 35 last season for a mid-table club is nothing to be sniffed at, and if you go back to prior to his Crystal Palace move and look at his FBref reports from earlier on in his career, it becomes clear that it's not just this period of Mateta's career which is the anomaly, but rather his first few seasons after making the move to Palace, and you'll see what I mean in just a moment when I show you his Bundesliga FBref reports from around 2020. But focusing on this version of Mateta, statistically you can see that this season, whilst these non-penalty goal scoring metrics don't exactly look elite, he is still ranking around the 60th percentile and almost bang on with his non-penalty XG, suggesting that his goal scoring output is certainly sustainable. Last season he massively overperformed his non-penalty XG by 0.18 per 90, scoring at a rate of 0.55 non-penalty goals per 90, ranking in the 83rd percentile when compared against all other strikers in the Premier League, which could have certainly been deemed as unsustainable. And to be fair, I probably wouldn't have disagreed, considering in 22-23 he massively underperformed his non-penalty XG by 0.17 per 90. However, go back to the 21-22 season when he wasn't even Palace's starting centre forward, and you can see that in the 1,145 minutes that he played, even though he did underperform his non-penalty XG by 0.07 per 90, he ranked around the mid to high 80th percentiles for both his non-penalty goals and his non-penalty XG, scoring at a per 90 rate of 0.39. He was signed on loan from Mainz in January 2021 on an 18-month loan deal, but initially he didn't really get a fair opportunity. But in the Bundesliga during the first half of that season, he scored 7 goals in 15 games. 13 goals in 25 games for the whole of that season, and during the first half of that 2021 season, where he played just under 1,000 minutes for Mainz and underperformed his non-penalty XG by 0.16 per 90, he was still scoring at a rate of 0.54 per 90, ranking in the 85th percentile when compared against all other Bundesliga strikers that season, with his non-penalty XG sitting in the 96th percentile. The season before in 1920 again, he only played just over 1,000 minutes, and once again he had a season where he massively underperformed his non-penalty XG, resulting in just 3 goals in 18 games. But the season before in 18-19, when he played 2,483 minutes, he was bang on his non-penalty XG, ranking in the 81st percentile for both of those metrics, scoring at a rate of 0.51 per 90, hitting 14 goals in 36 games that season. And so like with someone like Alexander Sorloth, he's had a few odd seasons here and there, due to his XG underperformance, or really just a lack of minutes. But if you take out the 22-23 and 19-20 seasons, in terms of his per 90 goal scoring metrics at least, he actually looks quite impressive, especially when it comes to getting into goal scoring positions, which can be seen by his non-penalty XG, considering he's been playing for mid-table sides in both the Bundesliga and the Premier League. So overall, would Mateta be my first choice target? I would say no. I still prefer Gyökeres and Osimhen at the £60 million price point. For Osimhen, I'd offer Garnacho valued at between £55 to £58 million, and Luke Shaw maybe on a £4 to £5 million loan move for the season, in order to lower Napoli's long-term risk with Shaw's injury record, in exchange for Victor Osimhen, who only has 1 year left on his contract anyway, so is at least £12 to £15 million overpriced. And so even if Napoli only value Garnacho at between £45 to £50 million, overall that swap deal should balance out. I would offer Osimhen a base salary of £15 million a season with a £1.5 million bonus if we do make the Champions League, and another 1.5 if we win a trophy. If that deal falls through and Arsenal haven't gone for Gyökeres, then go for him at 55 to 60 million, maybe try to include Højlund or even Xerxes if you have to, in order to finance it depending the situation. Sesko at around 60 to 65 million would be my third option. But if all of those ended up overpriced or unattainable, I think Mateta would probably be my fourth choice, as stylistically he ticks all of the boxes, being able to hold up and link play from direct passes from deep in the build-up phase, but also able to spin into the channel and drive forward with the ball as well. He's also highly efficient when it comes to linking play with his feet, using short and sharp passes and layoffs in tight areas higher up the pitch, and in and around the box I've shown that he has the offensive instincts and movement, combined with the football IQ, quick footwork and ball manipulation around the box, that should at least make Mateta a reliable goal scorer for Manchester United, picking up between 13 and 15 non-penalty goals in each of the next 2 to 4 seasons. But I also think he has the potential to develop like Drogba and Anelka did into their late 20s, early 30s, approaching the 16 to 20 goal a season mark in the Premier League and 25 goals plus in all competitions. And he has also shown that he can make the difference with clutch moments during big games. And as alternatives, I'd probably have Sorloth, Schick and Mitrovic, who would be cheaper stopgap alternatives if Palace weren't willing to drop their asking price to around £40 million. So let me know what you think of Mateta in the comment section below, and if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. You can use code Atlantis at checkout for a 10% discount. I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. And also, if you want a 7-day free trial to check out any of my Patreon articles or sign up for the Instagram group chat, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.